Go ahead, Judy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this wonderful recording that we're with this morning with Freya Dinshah and with Climate Healers and Tammy Hay. It's wonderful to be here. Uh, we are so honored to have Freya with us this morning. She has been in the movement, vegan movement, before many of us, I would say, way before me, for sure. And she's always been a mentor to me, and I've looked up to her over the many years and seen her at different conferences. And she is co-founded the American Vegan Society years and years ago, like what, 60, 70 years ago, Freya?
Well, the American Vegan Society was founded in 1960. So that means we are 65 years old now.
Okay. So before we were talking about veganism, many of us, a lot of us were still just vegetarians and had not figured the whole thing out yet. And there you were with your husband, Jay, uh, who sadly passed away, and um, just leading the charge and teaching us so many things. So we're just thrilled to have you here, and we'll turn it over to Tammy or you, whoever is next to speak.
Thank you, Judy. And I just wanted to say, I invited Anya. She's new to the Million Vegan Grandmothers meetings, and she'll be speaking at the next convergence. And I was telling Anya about Homo ahimsa, Judy, and she was very moved by the term that we are moving into Homo ahimsas from Homo sapiens. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Freya, thank you. We're very grateful you're here.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Judy. Judy, you're like my sister. You were born the same year my sister was born. And I have a sister named Joan, and she became vegan shortly after I did, and she raised 2 children vegan, as I did. So the topic today is the milk of human kindness. When I look back to when we became vegan, my husband became vegan in 1957 and I did in 1960. We did it because we heard about what happened to the calf. Now, as most people, even as vegetarians, we thought that the cow gives us milk. And it wasn't until much later that we realized that in order for us to have the milk, the cow was taken from the calf, and the cow wound up as veal or in meat pies. I mean, the calf wound up the veal or meat pies or whatever. And this was very traumatic news to hear. And since I had been vegetarian for ethical reasons as a child, I knew that our family didn't eat meat because we didn't want to kill the animals for meat, and we knew we could live well without it. And here we were faced with the same situation when it comes to milk. But the calf was taken away and became meat, and the cow, when her milk production fell off, she went to the slaughterhouse too to become hamburgers. So I remember deciding I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't drink milk anymore, but I didn't know how I would fare without milk, because we were so, milk was an essential food, we were taught. Weren't we all taught that when we were young? And so it was a challenge. So at the beginning, we were more experimenting with ourselves before we were telling other people about the benefits of being vegan. We we're in touch with the Vegan Society in England. And when you look back at the history of the Vegan Society, which was founded in 1944, it was founded by a group of vegetarians who'd stopped using eggs and milk and found that they were doing pretty well without it. And the main motivator for them, or many of them, was when they considered all the animals in the world. Of all the animals in the world, man is the only animal that drinks the milk of another species. And then we learned that the milk of each species is very much attuned to what is needed by that animal and its young. So you've got cow's milk that is designed to build a calf rapidly into a big bovine. And so those components are not what we need as people. Our milk is designed for many reasons, including development of the human brain. And so when it comes to milk, the best milk is breast milk. And we should hope that babies can start off life being nursed by their mothers, because that's the best food for them. When they devise formulas, they have to modify them. They used to, if a baby was fed with cow's milk, it had to be modified, it had to be diluted, it had to be sweetened, and so on. So we come back to the fact that the best milk is breast milk. And how long one has breast milk or whatever varies a good deal. I know my mother-in-law, she always breastfed her babies for 9 months. And but other people have breastfed for longer, 1 year, 2, 3, 4, even up to 6 years. I breastfed my babies for 1 year each. By that time, they were much more interested in the other things that they had to eat and drink. And even if I was willing to nurse them longer, no, their interests were elsewhere by then. We were lucky to have a doctor, an osteopath, who was teaching natural methods, and she came up with many suggestions for us. I had given my children soy milk. The Loma Linda company, which is a Seventh-day Adventist company, had Soy-Lac, which was formulated for infants. I don't think they have it available now. And when you do look for a vegan infant formula, I don't know what's available at the moment, but it was almost impossible because of the vitamin D3 that they put in the formula, which came from lanolin. But I don't know the current situation of what's available for children needing a formula. So anyway, I was giving my children soy milk from the Loma Linda company. It was in a powdered or a liquid form. But then I started making my own milks and also using juices on the advice of our osteopathic physician. We made them sesame milk, and that was from unhulled sesame seeds, which we would soak overnight and then rinse them off and put them in the blender with some dates for sweetening. And sesame is an absolutely super source of calcium. We also gave them juices. We had a juicer and made fresh juices. And the formulas were carrot juice with parsley, and spinach was one of the ones we did. We also did ABC juice, which was apples, carrots, and beets. So between fresh juices and sesame milk, sometimes almond milk, that's how we fed our children. And when you look at the animals and how long they drink milk. You know, they drink milk for a bit and then they're eating regular food. But human beings are a bit different. We still like to have milk and cream, even when we're grown up. And so we're very happy that nowadays you can go into the supermarket and there are so many different milks you can choose from. There's not just cow's milk, but right there in the dairy case, in those cartons, you can find soy milk and almond milk and coconut milk and even hemp milk. There's such a big variety. So I would call these milks the milk of human kindness, because we're not taking them from the cow, we're not taking them from the calf. So Tammy, when you talked to me about this talk originally, you said you would interview me. So can we do some questions and answers now?
Absolutely. And we can all ask questions. Thank you, Freya. Thank you so much. So you teach a lot of classes to children. You have been for decades now. And what's the transformation that you see when you teach a child how to be in a kitchen? I know that it's something most children love to do, and you're teaching them how to prepare vegan whole food.
Mm-hmm.
Would you share any of the experiences that you've had?
Yeah, I can share you the experience. I was invited to participate in an after-school program. That was in about 2000, which was Tuesday evenings helping the children with their math and reading and other things. And then in about 2010, a friend of mine, Vasanta Molina, you know her, the vegan dietitian, I expect you all know her well. Whenever she's passing through the area, she stays with me and she asks if she can give a talk to some group. So this time I asked her if she would like to speak to a group of children who aren't vegetarian, don't care about health. And she said she would. So she came and talked to the children about the parts of plants we eat. So we talked about carrots, celery, broccoli, leafy greens, and so on. And the children really grasped this very easily. They were happy to identify roots and flowers and so on in the vegetables. And we had asked if we could do the snacks for that evening, and we had hummus with raw vegetables and crackers, and we had fresh figs and persimmons for dessert because it was that time of year and we happened to have them growing in the garden and available. The following week, the dear lady who was accustomed to arranging the snacks for the children, and their usual snacks were things like pizza with lots of cheese, of course, hot dogs, Twinkie, and Little Debbie cakes and things like that. And whatever they have surplus from the food bank. And we had tried to get hummus through the food bank, but they didn't have it available. Anyway, this lady said, we really need to improve the food that we're giving the children for their snacks. And I said, well, I've been thinking that too. And I was wondering how it would be if we made a soup. We can ask the children what vegetables they like, and we'll make a soup. So we asked them what they want, what vegetables they liked, and they said things like peas and carrots and onions. And then one child said chicken, and another child said, that's not a vegetable. So now we come to the following week, and I bring in an assortment of vegetables. The children take turns coming into the kitchen, washing their vegetables, chopping them up, and we taught them safe knife skills. And that is very important. I know a lot of adults who can't use knives safely, but we teach the children how to use their knives safely. And we put the vegetables in the pot, and I added some split peas to thicken the broth. And when the soup was all ready, we added some fresh spearmint. And then we served soup. And to go with it, they had pita bread triangles with peanut butter, and they loved the soup. And I think a big key to this is the fact that they came into the kitchen and participated in making the soup. And that makes all the difference. So when parents came to pick up their children, they were amazed to see them eating vegetables. And we had plenty of soup, so parents sat down and ate soup too, and it was a really successful evening. So for about 12 years, really right up until COVID, we did healthy snacks. And tacos was a very popular item to have tacos. And we chopped up the salad things very small. You know, you have to have it small and fine so it fits in the taco shell. And we did refried beans, and we'd cook up some mushrooms and onions. And then they'd make up their tacos. And they really loved that. We made a cheese. I think I got a jar of salsa, and I mixed it with water and some oil, and then stirred in nutritional yeast until it was the right consistency. And this made a very good pourable cheese to put on the tacos. Other popular thing we did was we would make wraps. And so I taught them how to cook rice, and we did whole grain brown rice. And we would have things like green beans or asparagus, because they lie nicely when you're making up a wrap, and lettuce and tomato, cucumber. And that was very good. And I will say that there was competition to work in the kitchen. I would have 3 children in the kitchen at a time, and hopefully I would have 1 or 2 adults. But I would sit the kids on chairs, and then they'd come up and do what they were going to do with an adult, so we could supervise them. They have so much energy. Have you seen a boy grating carrots? He puts everything he's got into it. And they're going so fast, well, that's enough. I don't think you guys are going to eat any more carrots, but he would have grated carrots forever. And altogether, a very successful program, Tammy.
Thank you. Yeah. Just be beautiful if we can have that in every community, in every city. Vegan food classes.
And generally what we were making was savory items, but once in a while we do cookies or cupcakes. But they would be whole grain if I did them. And we would make candies at Easter time out of dried fruit and nuts. And it was such fun to put the dried fruits through the grinder and crank it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Somebody else have a question for Freya?
Freya, and this is Judy. I'm just thinking that I would love to hear your perspective on the changes. We're mainly focusing on the mother cows and baby cows, but that did not become a very popular understanding what veganism is and all that until probably the 80s, maybe. I would love to hear your perspective on just the whole vegan movement.
Well, by the 1990s, there were a lot of products in the supermarket that made it easier for people to make the vegan choice. And so there was a big explosion in the number of vegans at that time. Before that, you had to be very self-sufficient and make things from scratch yourself and cater to yourself. You couldn't go out and expect to find a restaurant where you could get a good meal, except Chinese food. You had to rely on Chinese Buddha bowl or something like that. But otherwise, when we went traveling, we had a cooler and took our own food with us. And, you know, some things were convenient. I mean, we used to take canned sweet potatoes, for instance, which isn't something that I would have at home. I always get sweet potatoes and bake them in the oven, but canned sweet potatoes can be very useful, and there are always canned beans. When it comes to canned beans, I like to rinse them off because you can reduce the amount of salt you're eating if you rinse canned beans before you eat them. But yeah, we'd start off a trip with bread, and then the bread ran out, then we would have crackers to go with our meals that we put together in a hotel room or on the side of a road, wherever it was.
You know, they say you can tell a traveling vegan by the number of cans of food they have in their suitcase.
Yeah. Go ahead, Anya.
Yeah, Freya, thank you so much. This is very interesting. I was struck by the fact when you talked about when children are actually involved in making the vegan food, they actually like it. That's, I think that is so fascinating. And I was wondering, do you know what happened when those children then went home? Uh, were they able to convince their parents to make more vegan food, or what happened, when those children went home,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I never told them that they shouldn't eat animals and they must eat vegan, because they live in their families and their parents decide what they're going to eat, until they grow up. But I know at least one girl who grew up and became vegan. And others have told me, they're now grown up and have their own kids, and it's made an influence on their lives. One result from doing the after-school snack program was that we produced a book, a cookbook, a children's cookbook. I don't think I haven't. Oh yeah, I have a copy here.
Oh. That sounds like a great idea, a children's cookbook. Wow.
So this is available from the American Vegan Society, and here are some of the children working in the kitchen. I don't know how good a view you have of that, but anyway, you can go to our website if you want to take a look and maybe get a copy. Yeah, I think that it makes a lot of difference when the children work in the kitchen. By contrast, my daughter was on the YMCA swim team, and on the weekend there would be a meet between Vineland YMCA and another swim team. And to raise money, the parents' committee would have a snack table where they sold snacks. And generally this was candy and that sort of thing. And they said that they tried having healthier snacks, but they didn't sell. There was no interest in them. So it was a delight when I was at the after-school program and having the children work in the kitchen to see how much they enjoyed it. And in fact, I'd come home on quite a high because they liked it. They liked it. And that was such fun. I don't know whether I would have had the opportunity to do it any other place because I don't have qualifications. I'm just, what I do is just from experience in life. I was invited to give a series of classes at a church program, which I did, and that was liked very much. In fact, when the pastor came through and saw one of their classes, he was amazed at what the children were eating. And that, let's see, how would I say? I had set that up a little differently. So it was like going on a buffet line for the children to do something and get something. Like, for instance, at the beginning of the line, they learned to pour, and so they could have something to drink. And I'm a great fan of cafeteria trays. If you can work on a cafeteria tray, it controls spills and crumbs and things like that. So the children would have a cup and a bottle, and they can pour it into a jug that has a spout and then pour into their cup. So they're learning the skills of pouring, which is, working with liquids is fun for children. When my kids were very little, I would put the coffee table outside the house and give them water and jugs and cups and different things, and they would be delighted with that kind of play.
Thank you, Freya. Freya, when we're talking to children, so you just have this really calm and grounded way of teaching and integrating the truth that, we can only change ourselves and offer what we're here to offer. And like you say, it changes all the time. I guess my question is, without traumatizing children, how do we share this message, children and other people? With, my grandchildren have been hearing it for many years because they're not being raised vegan and they're relatively addicted to cheese. And I won't serve it or touch it if I'm in their home right now, and it's not an option when I'm with them. And I talk to them about the calf. But where I really appreciate what you say about not telling children they can't because they're going back into a home, and that's a level of traumatizing. Where do we plant the seeds in a conscious and compassionate way, I suppose, is what I'm asking.
Well, I think this came in the after school program sort of tangentially. I didn't tell them things, but other adults who were there would make remarks about what we were doing and how sustainable and healthy it was, and that we weren't killing animals. But I didn't say it myself.
Thank you. Go ahead, Allison.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for being with us this morning. It's such a delight to meet someone who's been a vegan for so very long. My question has to do with the vegan milks that we make at home. And you said that you were making your own milks, but was making milk from scratch ever a part of your after school program? Some of these milks are very easy to make. I'm thinking of the oat milk, for instance. Did the children ever have experience making their own milk from plant-based ingredients? Was that part of the program?
We didn't have a blender in that kitchen. And in fact, I had to take a lot of stuff from home. So it's a lot of packing up of cutting boards and all kinds of things to do the program. And I never took a blender, so we didn't do that.
If you had had a blender, what do you think the children would have or might have said or experienced or felt or thought when they saw that you could make milk at home instead of buying it at the grocery store or getting it from a cow? Any idea what your...
Well, I think that would have been a revelation to them. Children are so cut off from the source of their food these days. We're fortunate in the area that we live, but it is truck farming country. So we have a lot of fields where they're growing tomatoes, eggplant, and squash, and there's some apple trees and peach trees and so on. So we're really in a very nice area for vegans to live.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Children are so cut off. The majority of young children growing up today from the source of their food. And the one little girl who said that she wanted one of her favorite ingredients, one of her favorite vegetables for soup was chicken, goes to show some of the confusion that children have about where their food comes from.
Well,
So,
there's a lot of concepts that people have, children and adults too. Most people think that in order to get protein, they need meat. And if they're going to get calcium, they need milk. And they don't know that there are other sources of those nutrients. And I didn't use the word vegan with the after school program, but we did have to report every so often on the programs we were doing at the center. And so I said that we were preparing snacks based on the foods that the US Department of Agriculture encourages Americans to eat more of. So if you look at the USDA My Plate educational program, you'll see that well, they used to call it just the meat group. Then they called it the meat and bean group. And now they call it the protein group. And you can get in there and find out that you can get your protein from the legumes, peas, beans, and lentils, from peanut butter, from nuts and seeds, and other sources. And there's protein in everything. Vegetables have protein. One of your highest quality sources of protein is the leafy green vegetables. Now, you're not getting a lot of calories from your leafy greens. You can get your calories from other things that are more starchy, but leafy greens answers a lot of questions. It's an excellent source of calcium, things like collards and parsley and so on. And any vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients you're going to find in the leafy greens. It's also important to eat whole foods, not devitalized foods. Now, all these people are very interested to make sure they get enough protein. I wonder why they're eating white rice and white bread. Because they've taken the protein and vitamins and minerals out of these things to make them white. And we consider brown rice, other grains, quinoa, and whole grains, whole wheat, and we explore other kinds of flours. So we get a very balanced diet. So,
And
Yeah, I also have the perception now that we believe that children don't like fruits and vegetables, but I think children love fruits and vegetables, but they're hardly ever given them. So we had a neighbor, she's 20 now, but when she was, we moved in when she was 3. By the time she was 5, she would come over and we would be eating, often in the morning. So it was often fruit and oatmeal. And she's like, "You have fresh strawberries? I love strawberries." Well, I'll have some. And it turns out that her family was an extremely standard American diet to the point of, processed everything. So it got to the point she would come over and say, what kind of fruit do you have today? And then what kind of vegetables do you have? And then she would help us make things. And then these conversations would happen. Why don't you drink milk? Well, who do cows make milk for? Baby cows, right? And what's the purpose of cows making milk for baby cows? So they grow up to be big fat cows, right? Do you want to be a big fat cow? No. But then she would go home and her family would ridicule me, her, make her drink. I mean, it was a difficult situation. I will say that now that she has grown up, she and her mother are both vegan. I don't know that her mother is committed vegan, but it took a lot of time, and she took. I remember the day she was 12 or 13. She found the film Dairy is Scary, and she came to me bawling, I mean, in tears, because she had watched it and she had no idea. And she wanted her mother and her grandmother to watch it, and they refused. They absolutely refused. And she's, at our house in trauma from what she saw. And I don't know how to, I mean, other than, individually supporting people, but I wonder how many kids, I mean, red peppers were her favorite. I mean, she would eat red peppers and slice them up, but lots and lots of things. And just recently, I had a friend who has an 18-year-old nephew living with her because of family issues, but he already has pre-diabetes and higher blood pressure, and he eats also very badly. And so she said, I'm trying to find some things for him. And I said, well, come over. Let's make what's his favorite food? She said, tacos. I said, great. Let's make some jackfruit tacos. Let's make some TVP tacos. Let's make some bean tacos. Let's do that. She thought I meant to teach her. And I was like, oh, no, no, no. He has to be here. And he has to see my husband cooking because he has to see that men do this. It took weeks, but finally they came. He was, pretty quiet. He's 18, right? An 18-year-old kid in a senior year of high school, overweight, not doing well in terms of health, and he's going to be forced to do this. But then he actually got into it. And his favorite, not mine, his was TVP, but you know what? If he's, I mean, that's fine. Textured vegetable protein is certainly better than hamburger, right? So he loved it. And he was like, I can't wait to make this for my friends. They won't be able to tell the difference. And he is now using, and he's cooking. He's not vegan. He has not changed his entire diet, but the seed got planted. And these experiences, it's like, oh, I had again years ago, but they were 3, 6, and 9, great nieces and nephews, and I made roasted chickpeas, and they were supposed to go on the Buddha bowls that we were eating for dinner, but I had made them a little earlier. They were in a bowl. They decimated the roasted chickpeas because they loved them. They were snacks. They loved them. I just think if we, like, I think all of us, well, I don't know how to get parents who are committed standard American diet people to see, but I think it's a myth that kids don't like fruits and vegetables.
I agree. And Anne, you are a wonderful neighbor. We should all be neighbors like you and help people who might drop in and see us. Just by being there and sharing, that's wonderful. You're a great neighbor.
Thank you. And Anne, before you're off, I just want to add, I see that Allison has her hand raised, but I just want to, as we're moving, part of what we're doing is setting up a movement for International Calf and Cow Day that we're going to announce this Mother's Day and do everything we can in communities around the world to bring this awareness. Do you think it would be beneficial to be teaching children how to make their own milks, and we can use all different things?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also, Free from Harm just sent an email today about the whole Milk for Kids Act that Congress is currently looking at. And they have pulled out one of the clips that they pulled out. I think it was Durban, but I could be wrong on that. But he shares the information that there are a huge number of health-related organizations that are opposed to the bill. And he asks the USDA representative, can you share which health organizations are in support of this bill? And it was really cute because they added music to it, but there's the sound of crickets, and she pauses and then says, I don't have any such information. But it's the, American Medical Association, the Kids Dietary, I don't remember all of them, but he lists like 7 or 8 organizations that are in opposition to this bill. So yeah, why are we not helping kids learn how to make milk, learning where milk comes from, and sharing the truth? I don't know. like I did not show the Darius Scary video myself, but she found it, right? Because she was interested, and then she finds it. I didn't have to share the trauma to just say, well, this is why we don't drink milk. We don't drink milk because, and we shared stories about what other mammal do you know that drinks a different mammal's milk? What mammal do you know that drinks milk after infancy? Like we would have all those conversations. I tried to keep them low key. I'm more intense right now than I would be with her. But yes, absolutely. I think we need to be pushing this. I, emailed both our senators, which is a complete lost cause, but I emailed them both and said, vote no on this bill today. I think we need to keep, even though it's a hassle, keep going all the time. So yes, I strongly support that.
Thank you. Thank you. And the Million Vegan Grandmothers write a lot of letters. So if anyone wants to formulate a letter out of this conversation, together, Liz, one of our grandmothers, is also writing a letter right now to Kennedy, who's promoting raw milk and more flesh food. And so we've just finished editing that. But I think it would be a really powerful letter. And if anyone wants to share it also on the letterhead of the grandmothers, we have access to that, and it can be sent to me quite easily. grandmothers@climatehealers.org. So go ahead, Alison. Thank you.
Yes, when you were answering my last question, Priya, my dog started barking and I put myself on mute, so I couldn't ask you then. But I was wondering, now that we're talking about the Mother Cow and Calf Day, I was wondering about your wisdom and experience with the different plant-based milks. What's your favorite? What are some surprising tricks maybe that you've discovered? Which one do you think tastes more like what people consider milk? Any thoughts you have in any experiences you might want to share with us, but particularly, what's your favorite? What's your favorite milk?
Well, I think my favorite milk is almond milk when I make it at home. It's so easy to make. You blanch the almonds, put them in the blender with water and whiz it up. I find that most parents who are really thinking about which milk they should give their children will look at soy milk because it has the better protein value for growth compared to the other milks. The commercial almond milk, I think, has been manipulated too much. They don't want it to have a high fat profile, and so it's diluted and it's sweetened and so on. So much better to make your own almond milk. I would point out to you there's the comparison between the US Department of Agriculture's food plate with a glass of milk on the side. You should also look at the Harvard School of Public Health, and they have a healthy eating plate, but they have a glass of water on the side. They do not have a glass of milk, and they have information about the other sources of calcium people can look to. Things like collard greens, other greens, figs, almonds, sesame, and do look a little deeper into those things. Even the US Department of Agriculture, if you put searches in for vegan source of calcium, for instance, it'll come up with an answer for you. It's not the advice that's up front, but if you put in specific questions, it's amazing what good results you will get. The USDA is taking into account all the different ethnic food traditions there are in this country. And so it's trying to make its food information welcome to everyone.
Thank you, Freya. Mm-hmm.
Another thing with working with children and cooking, they love tools and equipment. And that really fascinates them.
Like what?
If you've got one of those choppers, a jar with a plunging chopper,
Oh, yeah.
they'll like that. And one thing you can make with that is you can make a great sandwich filling out of cooked chickpeas, chop them up, and also have chopped cucumber and chopped celery, mix in a bit of vegenaise or a vegan mayonnaise, and that makes a lovely sandwich filling. So if you're packing a snack or a bag lunch or something, that's a favorite item.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Anything to make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa. And then Judy.
Hi, thank you. Freya, I love your demeanor. I envy your calm. Do you consider yourself an activist? And I wanted to ask you about, have you had frustration, or do you have a agenda, to enlighten people? And is it ever in the context of, the bigger umbrella of climate change or urgency or anything like that? That's a place that I really struggle. So I just wondered, how you've maintained sort of your beautiful internal peace.
Oh, well, I know what you're talking about because we know what's going on. We know what happens at the slaughterhouse, and it shouldn't happen. And we're very angry that people are still eating meat, and we want to take them by the shoulders and shake them and shout at them because that's how passionate we feel about it. Unfortunately, they don't respond to that kind of approach. And so I find it's better to talk to people about, well, let me give you an example. I spoke to a group last month, the local group of the American Association of University Women. They called and they wanted to learn about veganism. They had some questions. And then they called again and said they don't want to come and be told they should be vegan. So I said, well, that's all right. I can talk to them and we can have a good time. So I started out saying that a lot of people told me they couldn't become vegan, and they're sure they wouldn't like vegan food. And my approach was, people don't know how much vegan food they already eat. And so we talked about nutrition, starting out with the USDA plate and pointing out all the things that anyone who's interested in a healthy diet is already eating, and that is vegan. If you look at the USDA plate, half of it is fruits and vegetables. So those are all vegan. And then they've got a little bit more than a quarter of the plate that is grains. People eat grains. People eat a lot of grains. Problem is they're eating refined grains. But anyway, grains are a vegan food. And then it's just picking out in the protein group what protein foods are vegan. And so we went through that. I started out with an image of the USDA plate, and I finished up with an image of the vegan food plate that Vasanta Molina and Brenda Davis created for their book, Becoming Vegan. And then we took a picture of them and me with that vegan food plate in the center, and we were all grouped around it. And they received that very well.
Thank you. Go ahead, Judy.
Well, just back on milk for a little bit, I just wanted to mention that I think kids would love these milk makers. They're so easy, and we have one. Usually we soak oats, almonds, and cashews together in the little basket. And then after it's soaked a little bit, you just put it in. So it's all raw. You put it in the milk maker and push a button. And I think kids would really enjoy doing that. And wow, out comes the milk. So it is kind of magical. So
Yes, that's a great tool.
yeah, they really are.
Cleaning the basket afterwards is a bit of a chore, though.
The what?
Cleaning the basket
Oh, right.
is a bit of a chore.
Right.
Do you have a good technique for that?
We just have a brush that we use to kind of get in those little holes. Yeah.
Yes.
And do it right away. Don't let it sit.
Yes. Thank you, Judy.
Do you have a brand that you recommend, Judy?
It's been so long since we bought it. I think it's a Soya Bella, I think it's the name of it. But there's a lot of good ones out there.
And when
kids
you make
really
things
love
yourself, you control what's in it and what's not in it, and that's wonderful.
Yes, that is huge. And you can add sweetener if you want, but it's really good on oatmeal or something like that, just the way it is, without any sweetener.
Has anyone ever seen one of these that you crank that doesn't rely on electricity?
No, I haven't seen that. Is that hard?
Well, it's not necessarily available in the US, but it's likely that it's available in other countries. I know here in Peru, we have hand cranked blenders, for instance. So that would be an interesting product to promote.
Yes, I'd like to learn about that.
Yeah.
My grandchildren really like milking the milk bag, our hemp milk bag. And things can be soaked right in there as well and rinsed right in there. I've used it for traveling as well. And the neat thing when I teach alternative, which I would love to start doing a video series on, maybe whoever would like to do some short videos, we can put them on the upcoming Calf and Cow Mother's Day website that's going to be built. And it would be great to have a lot of resources on there. And I really like letting people know that they can use what's in their area. So sunflower seeds and hemp hearts grow a lot in Canada, plentiful. And it's an amazing milk as a combo milk, and also pumpkin seeds. And so the other thing that a lot of people aren't aware of is a lot of people are allergic to nuts, but they can still have seeds. And a lot of people don't know that, especially if they're made in a way that there's no nuts in that facility, like a lot of our hemp hearts or sunflower seeds I can get without any nut interference. And so people can have seed milk. So they just think they can't have alternative milks because they're allergic to nuts, but they can have seed milk. And again, putting those couple dates in when you're blending it. And I do like to soak my nuts and seeds overnight because when people first go vegan, they don't have the microbiome to digest certain foods like and phytic acid and a lot of the enzyme inhibitors that are in nuts and seeds and beans and everything. I mean, it's very ancient and biblical to know to soak our food and to bring life back to it. So soaking things overnight is a really good thing, and rinsing it and sprouting it even a little bit helps bring the life back to it, which is very ancient knowledge as well. And that's what I find. My partner had a little bit of a hard time with legumes and certain things. When I met him, he was vegan for a while, then went back to doing milk and eggs a little bit. He said he forgot. He didn't know how he forgot, but he forgot a little bit after reading Diet for New America, and he's back vegan again. But he can have a lot of the higher lectin foods if they're soaked first, rinsed well, and sprouted. So it's good to have a few techniques under our belts to tell people before they build their microbiome. If they're used to eating heavy animal product, their microbiome sometimes takes a year before they don't feel so gassy and maybe a bit bloated, because you have to build a new microbiome based on the microbes you need to digest a lot more plant fiber and plant cellulose, and soaking things overnight and rinsing them and then slightly sprouting them, which just means rinse them twice a day and let them sprout a little bit. Really helps break down a lot of the enzyme inhibitors. Yeah.
A lot of wisdom there, Tammy. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. I think we're at the top of the hour, and we really appreciate this community. We're going to be having meetings the second Wednesday of every month. There will be a morning one based on where you're at. It's 9 o'clock Mountain Time here when we started. And there will be a meeting again at 6:30 Mountain, which is 5:30 Pacific or 8:30 Eastern. And we will have different speakers every time. If you know someone you would like us to share in this community, please do. Please send any videos you would like to share, anything, any articles you're writing. There's a woman that joined us last week. Her name's Anne Kaspranen. How do you pronounce her last name, Sailesh? She's in Sweden.
Jasperson.
Right, thank you. She does a lot of articles. She does a lot of writing for Plant-Based News, Plant-Based Treaty. She's a mother in Sweden. She was part of the Mothers Against Dairy movement, and she very synchronistically, we really deeply connected a year ago, and very synchronistically, she felt the same urge almost at the same time within a few months to make her mission to bring awareness to the dairy industry and the calf and cows and the perversion of the feminine divine around this issue. So Anne's a great resource as well. And as we're building this, we're going to be able to share emails and what the organizations and what people are doing in their area so that we can share each other's information. So right now we're building a website that we would like you all to be part of in both presence and whatever resources you want to share on that website so that we can make this movement happen in the next year. Thank you all for being here, and hopefully you'll be able to make the evening meeting with Louise Jorgensen, and she's been an advocate in Toronto for the dairy industry and against the confinement of cows and the slaughtering of cows in Toronto for a very long time, for decades now. So that'll be this evening in this same room. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Enjoyed being in your company. Goodbye, everyone.